Hello there. Hope everyone is doing wonderfully well. This is Lewis Texidor, and today we're going to be talking about tone. More specifically, we're going to be talking about Ghost's guitar tone on their latest record, Meliora. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend checking it out. One of the best produced records in 2015, in my opinion. So let's get into it. Let's start opening up Axe Edit. Let's get the amp loaded and the cab. Just very quick, I read on an article recently that they use like almost 12 amps and several different guitars for their final tracks, and then they made a just huge mix of all that. I think that's just a little bit of a headache to do so, and I believe that keeping it simple is the best way to go. So we're just going to do that. Amp, cab, straight into Pro Tools, nothing more. So I read also that they used to use orange amps, so I just went ahead and tried the Citrus A30 Dirty channel. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with it. I really like it. So as for cabs, I like using, for this type of tone, something in the 1960 range if you're using the stock cabs. But definitely something like very Marshall-y sounding. So I'm going to start with the G12M, and let's check how that sounds right off the bat. I think it sounds pretty good already. By the way, I'm using a 1970 whatever year it is, something Gibson Standard SG. I'm not using the original pickups. Someone might start hating, but whatever. I love. I'm using the John Petrucci Crunch Lab DiMarzio in the bridge position, and then I'm using a GFS. I do not remember which model it was, but it's super beefy neck pickup. It's ridiculous. It gets out of control sometimes, but I love it. So, tone is sounding pretty good so far. Just so you guys know, in this digital amp simulator world that we live in, I think cabs are in our impulse responses are the most important thing in our guitar tone if we're going to be using this and not real amps. Just so you can hear the difference, I'm just going to scroll through some of these different 1960 models, and you're going to hear the drastic differences between each other. So the V31 is a typical cab that most people go towards, and for this type of tone, I don't think it suits it that well. It's sort of, V30s have like a very modern voice, and to me, especially with high gain as well. So we're going to try and use this one then, go back to the G12. So going back into the amp, I find it sounds a little bit dark to me. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this bright switch on. Let's see how that sounds now. Starting to sound pretty nice. I'm going to roll off a little bit of the bass right here and boost a little bit of the treble and just a tiny bit those mids, okay? So let's check that out. Starting to sound really good to me. So obviously in the fractal you can go through all of this, blah, 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 blah. For me, you can spend hours, days, weeks, years figuring stuff on here, but for me, I like stuff that just sounds good right off the bat. So that's a pretty nice tone we got there rocking. So I have pulled up here, let's go and check this out. The session I did and the guitar tones I used for a Ghost Cerise guitar cover tone test video I did last week. I'll link the video in the description so you can check it out. So let's go ahead and look. I'm going to disable 1 second here. Okay. I'm going to disable all the plugins I have on here, and we're just going to listen to the raw tracks. So as you can see, they were double tracked left and right. Nothing too fancy, and hard pan right and left. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this very quick. Okay, so as we can hear, that sounds pretty similar to the guitar tone that we got right now. I find I think I used a different cab on when I recorded this, but nonetheless it sounds pretty similar. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I did sort of mix wise very quick. So all these decisions were, I never solo my tracks when I'm mixing unless I have to notch out a frequency that's bothering me or something. So when I was referencing this with the original track and trying to combine my guitars with the original Ghost track, I found that there was not a lot of presence in the guitar tone. So what I did just to add that little extra bite to it, didn't do a lot of clean in EQ that I normally do, but I thought the tone was decent enough. So what I did, these channels are pretty much duplicated for left and right. What I have is the Steven Slate VMR, and it's a great plugin. You can load in all sorts of stuff that the company has. And I'm using the virtual channel that this pretty much replicates like the sound of a channel when like your signal passes through that channel. You know how every single mixing console has like a slightly adds color to the signal even if you don't do anything to it. So and now I went ahead and I just A-B'd through all of these, and the RC2 was the one that was sounding great for these guitars. Then when it comes to EQing, I'm just slightly rolling off using a shelving EQ, the high end on this sort of like Neve type EQ. And then I'm throwing a high-pass filter at 67.5, I guess, or something like that. Maybe it's around 70. Depends on the mix. I'll roll off more or sometimes not even roll off. Normally I try to roll off. It keeps everything clean. So now then these two channels are going bus straight into a guitar bus that I have right here. We're going to take a listen to that too now in a minute. And what we have is the virtual mix bus. And for last but not least, I got the VTM, the Virtual Tape Machines by Steven Slate. This thing is amazing, one of my favorite plugins ever. So let's go ahead and just give it a listen to just the guitar tracks with all the processing done. So now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to play that back again, and I'm going to start disabling all the plugins, okay? Let's give it a listen. Okay, awesome. So now for context, I'm going to put them back with the original mix I did, and with the original Ghost track in here. You can see what I did is I just had a stereo wave file, and what I did, since normally all guitars are hard panned, I just made it all centered. So we can just listen to this very quick now, and we'll hear how a lot of the guitars are out. There's still just a tiny little bit, but most of them are completely out. So let's take a listen. Wait, my guitars are still in there, I think. There's still a little bit of guitars in there, but now let's take a listen with these with the guitars I recorded right now. Let's check it out. Sounds pretty good to me. So hopefully this was useful to you, and let me know in the comments if you want to know anything else that I'm doing. If you like videos like this, I'll keep on uploading more. And please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. If you like the video, hit the dislike button if you absolutely hated it. And please spread the word. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram. I'll put the links in the description. And thanks for watching. Take care.